The Notebook video game tie-in seems pretty fucked up. I don't know.
Davinity presents The Notebook.
Davinity Original Grin presents... Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
And my name is David.
Hello, everybody. Hi. I don't know what I'm doing. Greetings. So cool announcement part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So normally we do other stuff here. We usually just immediately talk about video games or like a joke or something. So I don't know, Hideo Kojima and Crash Bandicoot walk into a bar or something.
Ooh, it's a good setup.
I know. It was kind of compelling.
I'm ready for that.
I was tempted to walk down
Something's
that road.
going to happen between those two for sure.
Cool announcement stuff. So we had been looking for a way to like take the show a little more seriously and like maybe to a broader audience as well. So with that, started talking to Brendan Bigley over at Into the Aether, and they were kind enough to let us onto their podcasting network, The Worst Garbage Online, which is exciting and cool. I personally have been like a huge fan of all the work over there. Like obviously we've been on Async and had Async on here quite a few times, so that's probably not a surprise. But I'm also like, you know, an avid listener of Into the Aether. Like I think all their work over there is great. Frog of the Week is an amazing podcast. I was a big fan of 11 Again, which isn't currently like making new episodes. That was also a good podcast. And so I think like just philosophically there was a fit there. And so yeah, we're on there now too. Video Game Podtimism, a TWG show.
A network podcast now.
Networked podcast. I'm really excited about this. I love the community that they have over there. And so like, I think it was a pretty natural move. So yeah, I think like for anybody listening, what will change for you? Almost nothing. There will be a stinger at the end of the episode that we play now to say, hey, we're on this network. And the only other thing really is that you can come and hang out in the TWG Discord and we'll have a little corner over there. And I think you should do that. It's a cool place. And I think like before we were sort of officially there, I felt a little strange pumping that, but it feels better to do that now. So yeah, come hang out. If you want like links to that sort of stuff, you can find it at theworstgarbage.online. There's Discord links and stuff and links to the other shows. Who knows if we'll be on there quite yet, but probably soon. So yeah, I'm stoked about this. I haven't let you speak at all.
You're just so excited.
I am very excited. Yeah.
But no, it's a great network. You know, if you like the vibe of this podcast, you will probably like the vibe of a lot of those other podcasts that they have. Yeah. It's just people who are enjoying video games and enjoying the culture around them. It's all very Podtimistic positive. There's no dunking going on. People are just trying to enjoy their games and talk about them in a fun and interesting way. Yeah. I think each of the podcasts has something different and unique and interesting to bring to the table. So it's a great group of casts that we have now joined.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm excited to be among them. I think that there's like a very humanist approach to media consumption there, that it is concerned with like the people making it and the people who are consuming it and like doing that in a way that is responsible and like considerate of like all of that process. Yeah, it's good, man. You'll know, you listen to this podcast.
We're looking at how the sausage is made too and considering that, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the end product.
I will also say that if there is anybody new here, which there might be, you never know, given that there's a new name on a Discord list or a new podcast. Hi, hello, we are Video Game Podtimism. I think like in a short sentence, we typically look at kind of bad and okay games and try to find the fun in them. Yeah. We will very often take a 6 out of 10 game and be like, there's something cool in here. I know that there's something good here.
There's always one guy or one person who was at that company who made something real nice in this game.
They made Blinks the Cat cute, which was a good thing about Blinks the Cat.
Exactly. Yeah. Art design.
Good job. And so, yeah, I think we typically will do that. We're usually just talk about also like the video games we're playing. So that's, something. But yeah, I think by and large, the pod is a way to approach games that's like, maybe this is something that at some point we found really incredible, or that like it wasn't a fully formed 10 out of 10 or like, you know, the best game of that year, but there's something incredible about every game, and like we're on a mission to find that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think it's in itself, it's just incredible that games get made.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, it's a miracle every time one of them is like, here, you can play this on your machine.
Exactly. It's a little feat of engineering, of computer engineering.
Yeah. I used to try like make games as like a student and shit. And like, it's so fucking hard to do that. It's so hard to make a video game. So I'm always impressed when something comes out even partially formed, let alone fully formed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, welcome to the show. If you're new, come kick your shoes off, hang out. It's fun here. I don't know why this is sounding worse every second.
I was so curious to see what you were going to ask people to kick.
Yeah.
You just come kick your shoes off.
Come kick me in the teeth, man. I don't know. Whatever you want.
Hey, welcome to my house. Come kick me in the teeth if you dare.
Yeah, there's more stuff to the show, but you'll figure it out when you get there. So, hey, speaking of which, have you been playing video games, David?
I have been, yes.
I would love to hear about those.
Once again, it was just one game. It was The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Sure.
And I beat it. I finally beat it.
Yes.
It's
at
over.
long last.
At long last.
In August of 2023, David has beat Tears of the Kingdom.
When did it come out? Was that March?
I think it was May.
May?
Yeah.
It was an M. Yeah, it's been a slow grind for me.
Sure.
This is just how I tend to play games that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
I just try to glean every last little bit of enjoyment out of them.
Yeah.
Before I go to the final boss battle. Mm-hmm. And I think honestly in this game I might go back and still do some of the combat challenges and some of the other side quests that I just didn't get around to or maybe just forgot about.
Yeah.
But man, the ending to this game was really good.
No spoilies, but yes, like holy shit, man. I thought the ending was so effective.
Yeah, it was super, super effective. Just the scale of what you were doing at the end of this game was incredible. I loved it. I was not expecting it.
Yeah.
The direction of the ending cutscenes I thought was really good.
Yeah. They really pulled off spectacle in the end in a way that I wasn't really expecting them to be able to do. Like the whole game is a spectacle. Like there's so many amazing moments, but I feel like they really saved like the biggest bang for last. Uh-huh. And in a game that is like, I don't know if restraint is the right word, but I feel like it is comfortable being quiet in a lot of moments. Mm-hmm. And for them to like lead up to this moment was just like, it was so impressive. I was so like shocked and surprised and delighted in the way that it wrapped up.
But yeah, this game was incredible. And you know, I think that it's very telling that at the end of the credits, or I don't know if the end of the credits, or the beginning of the credits, or just the end of the game, where this was shown, but it's just a big black screen and it says The Legend of Zelda, and then Tears of the Kingdom. And I thought that was very fitting because this really feels like the first Zelda game I played where it's really like about Zelda. This feels like so much more her story than anyone else's in this game, and then as far as any of the others in the series.
Yeah.
And I really love what they did with her character in this one, of how they are showing that you can be someone who's not necessarily a fighter, but still be really the most integral cog to taking down the big bad. Yeah. Because honestly, like she is where all the action comes from. It's just everyone else, like she's just trusting them to take the reins a little bit and until what she's done can be put into action. Yeah. Right. She's really the architect of this whole game, honestly, and the whole entire, beating Ganondorf of this game. Yeah. Like Link definitely feels like he is her, not underling, but like he is like her knight, her chosen knight. Yeah. And I know it's always said in all the other games, but it's more like, oh, he's been her chosen knight to save her, as opposed to he is now her chosen knight to enact her plan and see it to fulfillment of what she has laid out for him, like perfectly to accomplish. And now it's just, he just has to take it over the finish line. So I thought that was just really amazing that they were able to do that for a series that's been called The Legend of Zelda. And Zelda has always kind of felt like, a character in the game, but like an afterthought, honestly, in most of the stories of the games. So I just really appreciated that about this game. And, definitely like playing through it, you're getting that sense like, okay, this really is like Zelda driven, this whole game. Yeah. And then they just threw it to the end. They just hammer it home. Like, yeah, she's really the hero in this game. So I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that aspect of the game.
Totally. I agree that they like, she is the person with like almost the most heroism in this game. Despite Link like fighting literally 3-headed dragons, like Zelda makes like such huge sacrifices of like herself and her well-being and all sorts of shit to like save the kingdom, right? Yeah, it's I was really amazed by all that as well. I feel like you get a little bit of that in like Ocarina of Time, how even young Zelda's like, hey dude, I need you to go into the future and shit and like save us, you know? And I feel like there's like kind of a romance plot there, but it's like pretty sparse. And because they're like kids in the beginning, it's more like, oh, you're another person that I've met. And, you know, they played nice music when I see you. So like, that's kind of the extent of it, which is fitting, right? Like if you're 10 or whatever, that's kind of how like a crush feels. It's just like, it comes out of nowhere. Yeah. But like, I think you get a little bit of that Zelda making a lot of sacrifices stuff, because she is like in that one too. But I think that the woman that she is in Tears of the Kingdom is just like, this is like, she's earning the title of princess in this one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's really, really cool. I really love it.
Yeah. Game was great.
Yeah. Shocking. The Zelda game is good.
The Zelda, if it hasn't been said like 1,000 times on 1,000 other podcasts.
I know.
The Legend of Zelda is actually a very good video game.
So, yeah, it's a great game. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to probably jumping back into it and just mucking around, hanging out with Genuine and making my house.
I always forget that that's your horse's name. I forget it every time. And then my brain has to do like a backflip to remember, like, that's a horse.
That's a horse. Yeah. Had to get the ability to braid his hair, of course.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Gotta love the manes. They're great. Then I got the big horse and I named him Big Uwine. Because I'm very clever, apparently.
Oh my God. That felt like a hex you just casted on me.
You are now cursed.
Yeah, to know this fact.
You know this fact about me.
Big Uwine will visit you in your dreams.
He's just a big horse in your room.
Totally good.
But yeah, that's really all I've been playing this past week, Chase. What have you been playing, my friend?
I got games, man.
I got games that are multiplying.
So just for like new listeners, there isn't any real specific kind of game that we try to grab. It's just sort of whatever. So there's going to be a little bit of whiplash between the past few episodes of me like talking about some of the kind of the biggest games. Like I talked about BioShock and BioShock 2 recently.
And you're talking about politics, like political ideologies. Yes. You're getting in depth on them.
But I got some indie games for you this week that I've like am really, really enjoying.
Oh, great. The
first one that I want to talk to you about is this game called The Banished Vault.
Ooh.
I don't know where I saw this. I think it may have just gotten some dust up on like Steam and then Twitter. I had seen some people talking about it. The visual style is like striking. And so like if you see it once, you'll remember it for the next time that it pops up on something. But essentially this game is I suppose a strategy game for the PC, and it is built by this company called Lunar Division. And this game's pitch is like, it is a strategy kind of like dark sci-fi gothic game that plays out almost like a board game. Like it is very, very close to a solo board game. Shouts out AJ for all the solo board game stuff.
Tabletop RPGs. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially the setup for this game is that you're this like spacefaring civilization that at some point encountered this like Lovecraftian horror called the Gloom.
Ooh. Zelda?
Yes, this is a Zelda connection for you.
Yeah.
And it's unclear exactly how, but the game says that like it just like wrecked your civilization, and the sheer power of it was like, we can't fight this, and we can only run for so long. Like this is eventually going to beat all of us. And so your civilization like takes off and tries to run, and their only goal is like, we can't survive this long term. So our new goal is to write down like the story of our civilization in a way that will last through whatever like catastrophe that the Gloom brings on the universe.
Very Mass Effect.
It's very Mass Effect if like in the beacon you pulled up and like the Protheans were like, dude, it's so fucked. Like you can't fight the Reapers in the way
it's
that you
over,
can.
dog.
Yeah, and just don't even try, dude. And so yeah, like that's sort of the setup. And you specifically as the player, you're on this thing called the Ariga Vault, which is like just the design of it is so fucking good. It is this like gigantic spacefaring monastery town. So just like imagine a town pulled out of the ground and like is just floating around the universe. It's got like very like Gothic Victorian era architecture of like very spiky pointed buildings and shit.
There's got to be a fan fiction where that's Yharnam.
Honestly, it looks very Yharnam-y. Yeah. Like it's not that far from that.
They got enough eyes on the inside to where they just floated off into space.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's all very Lovecraftian in the way that Bloodborne is too, which I just love. It never really lingers on that in a personal way. Like you're not getting the on the ground experience of living in this place. Which is honestly probably pretty good because like the lore of this video game is brutal and like not like in a bad way, but just like the idea that like we are a civilization that is doomed and we know it for like so many years in advance, not like next year, but like hundreds of thousands of years. There's only one way that this ends. And like that's kind of tough, right? Like that's challenging. But because I'm not interacting with people who know that, it's mostly just like I control the vault and the ships on it. That's fine. That's like it at that point. I kind of just, it's just a lore experience, which I really, really like because like that's a pretty fucking cool idea. That's pretty sick.
Is this supposed to be like an allegory for climate change?
It could be, right? I think like any media in 2023, like it's pretty easy to see the climate change stuff. And I think you get this with the influx of like photography games too. That where so much of those games are concerned with like not historicalizing, but like recording the present and like telling a story that feels important, because I think that's for a lot of people that can be kind of a salve to the idea of like, I don't know quite how this is going to work out for everybody, but I would like to like record, you know, moments of joy or like who we were or something like that. I think you get that with Season a lot, which is a game I really love from earlier this year. But this one's approach is we just need to make these big monoliths that will be able to tell our story in the future.
Interesting.
Which is really fun. So like, just to explain a little bit more about like how the game actually works, you will always show up to a system on this big floating space station, and your like bare minimum goal for that like run of any solar system is to create enough resource called stasis to be able to put your city back into cryosleep to make it to the next solar system, right? Again, amazing conceit. I love that. But on top of that, you also need to like be building all these other resources that will help you out in the long term, right? So these the mechanicalized way of telling your story, quote unquote, is that you have to build these like 4, I guess, archives on kind of specific planets, and that will require a certain amount of resources, right? So at a bottom layer, this is just kind of a resource management game.
Yeah.
And so when you show up to a new system, you'll be greeted with this map, which is, again, just like gorgeous. The whole thing looks like it is a virtual version of a real board game. And I'll go into that a little bit more in a second here, but like just the visuals of it are striking. The actual game board is just beautiful and incredible. And it just, they do such a good job of playing up the idea that this is a board game, but also like in a space that is definitely a virtual world.
Oh, I love that.
It's really, really great. And so the way that this game works or plays out is that you see all the planets in the solar system, and you're essentially the way that the game plays out is that you can make a plan for what to do. I think you have like, 20 or 30 turns, depending on which solar system you show up to. It's like, okay, there's a planet with iron. There's a planet with some kind of gas that I can get, or I can pull fuel up for this one, or refine fuel or something. But you usually can't do that on every planet. So you have to make an idea of like, all right, I've got 3 ships. One of them needs to go to this planet to start making fuel so that we can kind of like get back and forth between these planets. This one, I need to be able to build like something to refine stasis so that we can get out of here eventually. And then all sort of building towards this goal of being able to build these archives. And so a lot of the game, or at least my experience of it, has been just sort of like staring at the first turn and being like, okay, how much fuel do I have right now? What is my plan? Do I have enough like resources to go and do that? Because something that happens, and I've read this in reviews and it's happened to me a lot, is you'll get to a planet and you'll be like, motherfucker, I forgot the iron at the vault. And sometimes
brutal.
If you're right, because A, you're on a timetable. B, it takes a lot more fuel to get off of a planet than it takes to navigate through space, which like, sure. Exit velocity is tough.
Yeah, gravity's a bitch.
Yeah, and so like maybe you are going to a planet to make fuel, and you're like, well, I'm not going to need any because I can make it there. So what the fuck do you do now?
Famous last words. I'm not going to need any. I'll get it there.
Yes. So it's like there are these kind of crushing moments of defeat, and it is only by your own mistake that happens.
I have no one else to blame but myself.
No. Yeah. Like
brutal.
There is kind of a lot of like math and planning that goes into it. And like that seems like maybe not super fun. And for me, I was like, I don't know. I heard that in the reviews and I was like, that seems kind of whack. But it ends up being really satisfying because the first time you execute the plan right and you get back and you have more resources than you did before and you're like, I'm one step closer. That's a great feeling. It's so good. And I like in this game, I feel like the difficulty is the same way that like Dark Souls difficulty plays out sometimes, where it's my bad. I'm the one who fucked up, not the game. And it's also kind of in a way of like, when I look at the game and I'm like, oh, you like, of course you would like totally destroy me here. Like it's my own fault, right? It is an unforgiving game and like really, really challenging, but I don't think it's like oppressive, right? It's not something that is a slog to play through. It's just like, it's tough. It's really challenging. I think about the comparison to Frostpunk, that like city builder I talked about probably a couple of years ago now. And like that game felt brutal. Like because it's throwing you so many random events all the time, it's like sometimes I'm like, dude, I don't need this snowstorm right now. I planned for everything perfect and this fucking sucks right now. So they have game modes in that game where it's like you can take away some of the random bits and just do the story stuff, which I liked a lot. But I think this game really nails the difficulty of it being challenging without being just like totally brutal against you.
Sure.
So yeah, I really like that part of it. Like I said, it feels a lot like a board game. I think that the rules of it are exceptionally board gamey. The instruction manual is incredible because in the game it is showing you like pages of a manual and it looks like, yeah, this could be a thing. And in fact, it is. You can buy it on Amazon and they'll ship you the instruction manual for this virtual board game.
That's fun.
It's really cool. And like, honestly, very helpful. There's a lot of stuff in there that I'm like, wait, how much does a refinery cost? Because I need to know that now.
You need your cheat sheet.
Yes. Yeah. And just like, I need to be able to jot notes down of like, okay, I have this X fuel and I need this much iron to go over here, which is all really great. I think if you're into like board gamey stuff, this is kind of a no-brainer. There's also like, it does like actual dice rolls in there every now and then too, which I really, really love. I love a game that does it in dice.
I love a virtual dice roll.
I know.
It feels satisfying on a very different level than a regular dice roll because I don't have to worry about like throwing it over the table. You know, there's a little less anxiety involved with it, but
a gamer's nightmare. So yeah, I like all of that really works for me. I know that there are games that have been like converted from a board game into like video games, right? I think about like Gloomhaven as one of those, or even
Catan, Pandemic.
And like a lot of that is cool because I think that kind of removing some of the cruft of having to understand a game in totality before you play it can be challenging, and just being able to be like in Catan, be like, what can I do right now? Games are pretty good about limiting that stuff. But I feel like it's rare that a game so specifically is invoking the imagery and the mechanics of a board game without it actually being one. I think Citizen Sleeper is kind of the only thing that's quite as on the nose as this one.
Yeah.
Very different kind of games, obviously, but like, I just think it's so cool. And like I was saying before, the visuals of the game manual and kind of everything outside of the actual gameplay is so striking. It's this like dramatic black and white illustration of these like terrors beyond imagination from the deep, you know?
No. Cthulhu?
It's Cthulhu-y. There's no tentacles or anything, but like just like very cool illustrations of this shit. So
the threat of tentacles exists.
It really does. They're just behind the veil. I know I compare people a lot to this, but like it feels very Junji Ito, especially because it's had like all black and white and shit.
Sure.
It's great. I think like I was drawn in by the art style, but I stayed around for the crushing math, which is a weird thing to say about a game, but I really liked it.
You love the math.
Sometimes I do. It requires a very gradual learning curve. And this one has a good one, I will say. It doesn't throw the whole kitchen sink at you at once. It like kind of gives you a couple of like quote unquote straightforward solar systems in the beginning to kind of grapple with. And you know, your civilization is doing okay, and all your little characters that you have, their faith is all very high. When they start to lose faith, shit goes bad. So yeah, it's really, really good. If you're into like solo board games, I would check this out. It's really neat. The other thing, or one of the other things I've been playing, David, is this game called Mars First Logistics.
You're all about the space logistics this episode.
Weirdly enough, yeah, there's a lot of space stuff going on here.
It's a theme. Did the hearings in Congress, did those tempt you towards the UAP stuff? UAP games?
Aliens are real, and I want to go to Mars now, I guess. But this one is nearly the spiritual opposite of the last one as far as tone goes. Oh. So I think AJ had brought this up when they were on the podcast a week or two ago, when we covered Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. It's about your two sons. And...
it's always how it's going to be now.
I was talking to some people in the Discord about this, and it is going to be so hard for me not to say that every single time.
It's about your two sons.
It's about your two sons. Anyway, I saw this at I think it was like the Not E3 this year. It may have been a Day of the Devs or something. But the pitch for this game was that you're this like Mars rover that you can customize like really heavily to build out into handling like bigger jobs, and the jobs in question are like transporting one thing to another spot, right? Like taking a barrel from one part of Mars to another part of Mars. Those are usually your tasks, which looked cool. The game had like a very neat art style. It reminds me kind of Sable in a sense, just visually, not the sort of like framey stuff that Sable was doing, where your character was kind of moving like almost in not claymation, but like stop motion, not quite like that, but I'd say like just the surface level visual layer kind of looks like that.
Okay.
Not really Wind Wakery, but in that kind of cel shaded world. And I was compelled by that. That sounded fun and exciting. And I checked this game out. It's still in early access for what it's worth, but dang, this game is fucking good, man. It's really, really fun.
Oh yeah.
It is a lot crunchier than I thought it was going to be.
Oh. Like mechanically?
Yes, mechanically. You can really fuck with this rover. You can kind of build like whatever.
BattleBot?
You can kind of build a BattleBot a lot of the times. Like they have these sort of like connection joints that you can put on anything and just put another part on it and see like, what if I tried to build a propeller? Does that work at all? The answer for me at the moment is no, but maybe they'll give you an actual part. Yeah, worth a try. But I'm really, really enjoying this. So I think that the thing that has kept me around is that it is invoking a similar kind of creativity that Ultra Hand did in Zelda.
I was about to say, it sounds like Ultra Hand. It sounds
Absolutely.
Yeah, make a vehicle.
Yes. And like they give you kind of these like blueprints to start you off in certain places of like, here's just like a regular car, right? Here's a rover. Yeah. It has 4 wheels and it has an engine, so that'll get you started. But they throw stuff at you almost immediately that your current rover is not equipped to do. Right. And they just give you such a slow and gradual but satisfying introduction to all the shit you can do. And like at a certain point, it's like, I have 5 things at my disposal, similar to, Zelda. How am I going to get this thing over there? Because it doesn't say like, here's the right way to do it, or here's like the way to do it. If you just push it over there, it'll work. So any way that you can get it there is the right way.
Cool.
The actual like rover designer is so good too. Like I feel like in a game that offers you sort of like unlimited creativity, sometimes that can be kind of daunting in a way.
Absolutely.
Like I have a lot of trouble with like Kerbal Space Program because it's like, God, dude, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in here. I know a lot of people like that game, but for me personally, it was like very, very intimidating to get in there. Whereas when you want to edit your rover in this, I think it does 2 things that are helpful here. A, the UI is really, really good and like visually amazing. It really reminds me of like, you know how in Lego sets, when you pull open an instruction booklet, there's kind of like an isometric view of the Lego set you're building. It looks just like that. Like just a blank background, very like visually satisfying view of your rover that you can kind of scroll around and look at and change views and stuff. But like I feel like the influence of Lego here can't be understated, which is like so good because I think that combined with the music and the tone and like the dialogue and stuff, this game is inviting you to fuck up, which I really, really like. It costs you nothing to redo your rover or totally take it apart and try again.
Love it.
Or like mid-mission totally change the layout of your rover.
Don't penalize me for experimenting.
Yes, yeah. And this game like is really like, no, you may need to fuck with this thing pretty regularly. I think the music is just so happy-go-lucky, and when you pop into the editor, it's like, yeah, dude, figure it out. It has these like very satisfying like tink sounds whenever you like click a piece together. It sounds like something is fitting together in a really satisfying way. So yeah, it's so good. Like I said, they will present you with challenges of like, okay, take this box over there. And then they give you, here's like a lever that you can use. And here is the rotating arm that you will need to use that, right? Mm-hmm. So you can go over and pick it up and be like, okay, like this makes sense. And then they'll give you another box, but it is really heavy. So if you try and pick it up, your rover is going to tip over and it's not going to work, right? What do I do now, right? How do I fix this? Mm-hmm. They'll give you different kinds of machinery where like you can have a claw that sort of like closes on something to try and pick it up, and then another like lever that will raise it up so you're not quite as like off put.
Man,
it's really, really good. And
that's
like
fun.
Like I said, when described to me, that sounds kind of daunting, but it's just so much fun, and like kind of whatever works, right? Mm-hmm. There was this like big metal pylon that I was trying to get across part of Mars, and like it was exceptionally heavy, and I kept trying to like close my rover on it, but like when I would drive, it would just like crash into the ground because like it's too heavy and I can't pick it up. And so eventually the only solution I figured out was the pylon is like hollow in the middle. So I just put like a stake on the front of my rover and lifted it up to the point where like I was a very wobbly rover at the time, but like because it's so heavy, it was kind of weighing me down enough that I could get there. And like that was the solution, right?
If this rover is a wobbling,
don't you come a joblin'. I don't know.
A joblin'. Chase, are you talking about all these very fun and quirky indie games to get me to buy a Steam Deck now that it's refurbished for $420?
David, it's right there. You can just buy a Steam Deck. They let you buy one now.
Right there. And the refurbished ones are so much cheaper.
God, I bet the Banished Vault would be really good on Steam Deck. Something to think about.
Lord, give me the strength.
So yeah, like I really, really like it. I think that the visuals and the tone of it do a lot. Like I was mentioning before, this sense of like openness and experimentation is really good. It is drawn along, I would say, a little bit more objectively than a lot of the Zelda games are. Like you oftentimes have a specific goal in mind. But I just feel like the ask as far as creativity goes is how you design this thing, which is just like, it's so good. It feels like someone was putting you in charge of creating the Mako from Mass Effect, but like the game also knew that was a funny thing to do.
Sure.
Like it drives awfully and you just really need it to get you someplace with something.
I would love to make a Mako.
Yeah, you can in this game. Like you've got enough wheels. You can buy more wheels, and like I bet that there's a jetpack in the game somewhere.
Although I feel like they've done that in like Kingdom Hearts with the gummy ship, and I never touched it. It was always the same gummy.
Honestly, yeah. Like I feel like the create whatever vehicle you want genre is having a weird revival this year because
I agree, but continue.
I was just going to say, like, for so long, it was like the options you have are spray painting your car in a video game, which is fine, right? That's fine. But like that and the gummy ship and Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts.
I was about to say Banjo-Kazooie, yeah.
And like there's cool stuff about those games, but I feel like for so long that idea was just like abandoned. Like there was...
they're like, this isn't working.
It was an infected zone of game design. Like you'd start taking poison damage if you started making that kind of game. But Zelda came out and they're like, no, actually it's fun. And this game is also following along in that. And like, I feel like this game has... It came out so recently that I also don't think that this is a response to Zelda, right?
Yeah.
Like it has been in development long enough that I think that it was just in the water or something like that.
Maybe we just finally have the technology.
Yes, we can finally make custom vehicles that are fun.
Banjo and Kazooie nuts and bolts crawled, so Zelda could fly, baby.
Yeah, literally, quite literally fly. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm enjoying this game a lot. I think if you liked Lego, you would probably like this game a lot. Another game that I've been playing, David, is this game called Gravity Circuit.
You're playing so many games.
A lot of indie games, man. You know what's so fucked up?
What?
Among these three games, there is one that I have been playing by far more than any of them.
Among these three, or among all the games you've been playing?
Among all the games I've been playing. These three compared to the one that I've been playing an extensive
I know
amount.
which one's going to be. I'm waiting for that. But get me through Gravity Falls first.
Gravity Circuit.
Circuit. Give me the Gravity Circuit first.
Okay, so do you remember a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about Mega Man X and I was like, you could probably just build a modern Mega Man X and take a lot of the shit from that game and just directly port it over?
You talk about Mega Man X quite a bit, but I do remember that bit about
that
Mega
specific
Man X.
time, yeah. This is that game. Gravity Circuit is that game.
Awesome.
Yes. So it is this like action platformer throwback type game from the developer Domesticated Ant out of Finland.
Is it ant like the creature or like, ant the person?
Like the creature.
Okay, A-N-T. That's better.
This one's made by Alien Ant Farm from 2000. They did a very cool cover of Smooth Criminal. So how this game works, you play as this character called Kai, who harnesses the gravity circuit, which is it's a power, and you're trying to beat the resurgence of this thing called the Virus Army, whose leaders are like maybe comprised of a bunch of like old friends of yours, other robots.
Oh,
it's a very Mega Man setup. Like I feel like that story has happened a lot of like Sigma turning the Reploids, I think, yeah, against Mega Man X and Dr.
Real
Light.
Sigma male,
real Sigma robot. That has really gone uncommented on. That Sigma is the main bad guy in Mega Man X, but nobody's gone back and made a Sigma male joke about that dude.
We're here. This is why we're a networked podcast.
I think we just earned our weight.
That's a fresh meme, baby.
We just came up with a theoretical meme. We didn't even make it. So I think that this game, like visually, if you looked at it, you would say like, yes, I see how that's probably like influenced by Mega Man a lot. Like the fact that you're playing as a robot, just like the visual layer looks very Mega Man-y. And I think that that's true, but it's pulling from actually a lot of different Mega Man games and also kind of Ninja Gaiden, the like 2D ones.
Oh, okay.
So there's that, but also I feel like it's influenced a lot by the Mega Man Zero games, the Game Boy Advanced, in like the structure of like you have this kind of home base that you go to between levels. You rescue friendlies, I guess, on all the levels. There's always somebody in kind of a weird spot that you need to go collect and be like, okay, how do I rescue this person? You just have to like, touch them and then they'll beam back to base or whatever. As far as like mechanics go though, this game is like much more a hand-to-hand fighter than Mega Man was. Like Mega Man's very much, you shoot your laser beams and that's the way that you fight these guys. But with Gravity Circuit, your main attack is a punch. And so you really need to like get up on someone to do damage to them, which is like a really cool swerve. I actually think that's a neat twist on this genre. So and like any other Mega Man game, there are like 8 stages that you have to go through. I haven't gotten through all of them, but I assume there are some more after that, and you probably have to beat the bosses again. So there's that. In being a fan of Mega Man X and Mega Man games, I've played a lot of games like this, and it is weirdly kind of hard to make a good Mega Man game, it seems.
Sure.
I even from the people who made the Mega Man games originally, right? Like, Mighty Number 9 was a tough play. And even in the later entries in the Mega Man X series, like, I get that they were trying to experiment and take the series into doing other stuff, but I feel like there was a lot of what made those games good lost in translation there. I think just the farther that series went on, the less it was adherent to the stuff that made it great in the first place. And like I said, I want games to experiment. I want them to try new shit, but it just didn't feel like it was really coming up with anything really great in place of that. It was just like, this feels like kind of a bad Mega Man game. Bad is subjective, but it didn't have the stuff at least from the first few that made it great.
They didn't have the stuff. This kid doesn't got the stuff.
But this one does. This one really, really does. I think that it has like the game feel just down. The speed of it is really good. I think that that's a hard thing to tune right, but this one definitely does.
Sure.
I think that there is a momentum that you can get as Kai in this game that feels really, really good. You've also got like a grappling hook, which is really fun to like kind of swing around the level and like approach people in different ways. I feel like a lot of the game it's kind of open for how you want to beat bad guys, because like you have your straightforward punch, but you also have like, if you're in the air, if you press down and attack, you'll sort of do like a Greninja from Smash attack where he stops in midair and then slams down.
Say less. I knew what you meant.
and weirdly enough, I feel like this game is really influenced by Smash in a lot of ways. Like, your like up attack and your up air is also a thing. It feels like you're playing as Mario from Smash Brothers, where there's kind of a little bit of like juggling that you can do with people once they take enough damage, which is like, it's very strange to me that that's the first time that this has occurred to me to be like, why aren't more games influenced by Smash? Like, because I feel like there are games that are so influenced by Smash, right? Like the like Disney All-Stars and
Rivals of Aether.
Rivals of Aether. What was the one with like Multiverses? Also Multiverses.
Multiverses,
like, there's all these games and like they're so adherent to the base formula, but I think like it's sort of an oversight, or not an oversight, but like I feel like there's a lot of stuff you could mine from Smash Brothers for like just how good that game feels. I feel like it's kind of overlooked sometimes about how much of a miracle that game is for game feel. Like you can just look at a character in Smash and trust that they have made it feel exactly right. If you're like, that looks like a big guy, I bet I know kind of what his moves are, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one takes a lot from that, which is really, really good. I think it feels incredibly tight when you're fighting. But once somebody has been like kind of defeated too, you can also like grab them and throw them into other enemies, which typically is like a one-hit kill if you can get it right. It's kind of hard to do. Like the aiming is tough, but I think that there's this flow that you can get into in this game where you like grapple hook up next to somebody, you punch them before they can really get at you, you grab them, you dash, you throw them, and just like keep moving through the level. Like I've seen people who are much better at me play this game. And it's like, it's impressive how quick you can get moving, which is really, really good. Like I just think that it's an exceptionally hard thing to do. And I think that they've just like nailed it in a way that, like I said, it feels adherent to what like these Mega Man games are doing, but also bringing enough to the table for me not to be just like, wow, this is really just Mega Man, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if it rises to like the like fever pitch that something like Shovel Knight to like DuckTales did, but I think it gets pretty close with a lot of it. I think it's a really, really good Mega Man like. What else? It is also very, very hard in the same way that Mega Man games are.
Mega Man, yeah.
It's Mega Man, but I think it is more forgiving with how many checkpoints it gives you than Mega Man usually was. You also don't have lives per se. So like if you get half of the level, burn 3 lives, you don't have to start back over. You just start back at your checkpoint. So I think that there's also an encouragement of like, try a different approach or try something dangerous or a way that you haven't gone before or something like that in these levels. That feels it opens you up for creativity in a way that I think is really, really neat. Hard, but neat. Plus, like, you know, this is a game for Mega Man heads, so I'm fully open to a game being this hard.
Mega heads,
yeah. So yeah, that's Gravity Circuit. I'm really, really enjoying this one. It's nice. It's very good. Okay, David,
I'm ready.
You're my dear friend.
Oh,
and
yes.
I'm going to give you a choice here. In the spirit of this video game, I'm going to give you a choice.
Okay.
The game that I've been playing by far the most of is Baldur's Gate 3.
With a hard T, huh?
With a hard T. All the real Podtimism heads will know why that's a joke.
Gate heads are eaten today.
I can save my discussion for this until later, or I could make it very brief if you want me to. Because like Davinity Original Sin 2, I feel like the first like 40 episodes of the podcast was you just churning through that video game and being like, I love it. I love everything about this beautiful video game.
Just me being in love with this game. Oh, it's so gorgeous.
Yeah, it was just your muse for so long. And like,
it's a good game.
I was kind of a fair weather Divinity head. Like I feel like I hung out in Fort Joy for like 3 different playthroughs until I finally broke through and was like, man, this is a good video game. But you knew originally. So I don't want
Originally Sin.
Very good. Thank you.
Davinity.
Davinity Original Sin is pretty good. Davinity Original Grin. That's when you're having a really good time.
I was having a good time.
So that Larian Studios is the studio that made Divinity Original Sin and also has now gone on to make Baldur's Gate 3. How much do you want to hear about this game?
I want to hear as little as possible about the game.
Perfect.
I would love to hear just about your thoughts about the game, just like in broad strokes. I don't really want to know about like the character creation or the story or anything because it's still not out. I'm waiting to play it on consoles with my girlfriend.
Yes.
Because we played both originally Divinity 1 and 2 together.
Yes.
A co-op, and because Larian Studios is a real mensch of a studio and they are keeping alive the couch co-op play lifestyle. And they're really the only like big studio that really does it for like AAA games.
Yeah.
So we are waiting patiently until the beginning of September when it launches for the PlayStation 5.
Yes.
When I will download it the day of and jump straight into that bad boy.
So as the crow flies, that's about a month away right now.
It's brutal.
So I will hold any discussion about it until you're in there because
thank you. I appreciate that.
It feels like if they were like, hey, we just made a new Mega Man Legends game and David is the only person who can play it. Guys named David are the only players we want.
I'm going to spoil the whole thing for you.
Yes. So broad strokes. I won't go super hard on this.
Thank you.
I thought that Tears of the Kingdom was a shoo-in for best game of the year for me.
Ooh.
It is not.
Baldur's God, the hype. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Baldur's Gate is astounding to me in so many ways.
Oh, God.
I was not expecting to like it this much. I liked Divinity Original Sin 2, and I think that I eventually got into it, but it took some pushing from me.
Yeah.
I like CRPGs. I've enjoyed a lot of them. I think Wasteland 3 was one of them that
you were big into Wasteland for a bit there. Yeah.
Yeah. That one really got me in a way that I enjoyed a lot. Disco Elysium is also I think you could probably put it in that category. I feel like a lot of the time, I'm thinking of games that are kind of that isometric RPG game.
Yeah.
And so I have enjoyed these games before, but that one specifically just didn't really pull me in. I think a lot of it, frankly, was the difficulty.
Yeah.
The most recent time I played it, I put the difficulty almost at 0, right? Mm-hmm. So that combat was not something that was really challenging me that much. And I enjoyed it a lot more because I think the RPG stuff there was just amazing.
Yeah. So good.
But God, dude, Baldur's Gate has just improved on every one of those aspects. I think
God.
It relies a lot more on D&D 5th edition.
Uh-huh.
And I think your mileage will vary a lot. If you like Divinity, you'll probably like this one too. But if you really liked 5th edition, you will probably immediately understand a lot of what the game is offering you. Mm-hmm. At least mechanically and specifically for combat, I think too. But it's so much more clear why things are happening in combat and what you can do to gain an advantage or how you should be using your characters.
Compared to Divinity,
yes.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like Divinity, I would get into a fight and then realize 3 turns down the road that I'm standing on grease, ice, and fire all at the same time. And someone is controlling my character and I just cut my friend in half. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? But it is so much more clear in Baldur's Gate. They do a really good job of tutorializing hey, you will also need to take every advantage you can in combat to get the better of people. And so it is oftentimes especially in the early hours, asking you maybe try to get on a higher vantage point or keep your casters in the back and get
the Obi-Wan of the situation.
Be the Obi-Wan. So that I think was the initial part of it where I was okay, this game is immediately a lot more easy for me to engage with. Mm-hmm. Because I think the combat was the biggest thing with the Divinity that was hard for me. But
sure,
it's also added to the fact that in Divinity, whenever you got into a conversation with somebody, it was still in the same view. It was in that isometric view.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of voice acting, which was cool. Mm-hmm. But I always felt kind of distanced from the game.
Agreed.
Baldur's Gate gets right up on somebody's shit whenever you get into dialogue, which really helps me connect with the people in this game.
Sure.
Speaking of which, I won't say anything about any specific characters, but I love them all, and they're my children and my boyfriends and my girlfriends now. They're all so good.
That's a lot of different relationship styles.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing. I there's not a single person in the base cast that I'm not this is so fucking good, the story that they have going on. I feel like Divinity, a lot of the times for me, it felt like I had missed a chapter in a lot of these characters origin stories.
Sure.
They showed up fully formed. And I think it was maybe a way to kind of imitate how coming to a D&D party can be where this person's already lived a life and you're just learning about it. Whereas they do such a good introduction to every single person where I'm I know who this person is. I know the stakes. There may be more parts of their character that I haven't seen yet, but I get who they are almost immediately. Mm-hmm. So just astounding character work. The adventuring is amazing. I am constantly wowed and surprised by how did they do this amazing magic trick every time I show up to a new place? It asks you definitely to take your time in the way that Divinity does too, where everybody in town has something to say to you. So go talk to everybody because it's important. The role playing parts of this are amazing. Being able to do literal 5th edition persuasion checks, right? And the game pulls up a literal 20-sided die and says, here's the difficulty that you will need to pass. It's either a 15 or a 2 or whatever. You roll the dice, you see the result you get, and then things happen based on that, right?
Oh, so good.
It's amazing. Again, physical dice, really good. That's incredible. I feel like every part of this game is so shockingly considered. Every side quest, I am so invested in the people that are in it. Every character feels real and considered and amazing. And again, you can interact with this game in really any way that you want to, right? So it's not set in stone that these people are my allies or these people I have chosen to help now. You could just go to the enemy camp and be like, I hate those other people. Let's go raid them. And they'll be like, yeah. And then that's the way that the story plays out,
Wow.
It's just astounding. I looked on a wiki the other day for potential allies in this game. And there was somebody who came up. I'm like, in what fucking world would I have been able to make that person my ally? That was a bad guy.
You didn't skill check hard enough, Chase.
I didn't even think to. My brain was just well, that's a person that I have to fight.
Yeah.
And you just don't a lot of the times.
I love that about these games.
It's so good. It's so astounding. And I've seen people talk about how the difference between combat and mechanics is very slim in this game, which is good. Mm-hmm. Every situation feels like you have to think in the real world, how do I approach this? Not just is this a bad guy that I need to fight? Or is this somebody that I can engage in dialogue with? You can almost talk to everybody, even I'll try to be as vague as possible, but there's a camp that you go into for, quote unquote, bad guys in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I made the assumption very early on, I'm going to have to fight my way through this. You really don't. You can show up and just trick enough people that you're supposed to be there and you can do it. Or find another way around. There's always a cave that leads out to some other spot that you're oh, I'm here now. And because these people are in a camp, they don't they would have expected me to interact with the guards by now. So they're not hostile towards me. They're just who the fuck are you? Anyway, do you want to do this thing with us or whatever? It's shocking. I'm so invested. I've played so much of this game in the last couple of days. It's all I really want to do is just be in there and talk to my friends.
So excited.
It's crazy, man. I'm so shocked about the quality of this one. Again, just because I feel like this genre is really hit or miss for me. I either have to really push to get to the good stuff. It took me a couple tries for Disco Elysium to actually get it. It took me a couple tries with Davinity, or it's with Wasteland where I'm yeah, I want to play all of this. So it's nuts, man. I think you specifically will love this game. But there's a lot in here to love.
I believe it.
I'm crazy about the characters. I love that their implementation of long rests in this game is so good because you say, I would like to long rest. And then you go back to your quote unquote camp where it's just a home base for you and your buds. And you get to wander around camp and be hey, so-and-so, what's going on with you? And they also will have a little dialogue that's new, or you'll get to talk about something. It's so fucking good.
Love it.
Yeah, I think that in comparison to Davinity too, I think that that game opened kind of slowly in a weird way. The very first scene was pretty good, but you are stuck in Fort Joy for so long in that game. Mm-hmm. And it is very much you got to learn, right? But I think that this game opens up in such a more compelling way that I was immediately drawn in.
Gotcha.
Especially the first scene, but the first act of this game is just I could not stop trying to figure out who is this person? What's their deal? Why is this person acting shady? What don't I know about this area? How can I figure out more shit? Or am I doing the right thing? Is there a right thing? How do I figure out it's so fucking good. I can't believe this game, man.
Larian.
My
goodness.
Yeah, it's shocking. I will have more to say once we can kind of talk specifics, but just broad strokes, I'm so surprised that this game is, or it is working as much for me as it is. Because I think my expectation was that this was a game for David, and that's okay. In the same way that Davinity was, right? That I'd be yeah, I can see why people like this a lot.
Swords and sorcery.
And listen, it is so swords and sorcery, but there is it's really, really good. But God, they just dig into the D&D lore and universe and shit like that.
I like that too.
They're talking edge parts of the lore immediately. Again, I feel like the opening hour is just my jaw was on the floor for so much of it.
Hell yeah.
It's amazing. So I'll be quiet about it so the next month isn't quite as painful for you. But once you start playing it and catch up, I'd love to talk about it because there's so much in there to digest and consider.
Oh, we're going to be talking.
Yeah. I sort of suspect the next 6 months will be more
we're gonna be talking
Baldur's Gate for you. It's good. It's a good video game. I'm really excited to talk more about it.
So excited.
Honestly, just excited to play more of it. I will say no more of this, but Karlach is my girlfriend. Leave it at that.
Karlach.
This will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week, which is for new people. We just like talk about something that is giving us a cool vibe this week. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a mechanic, sometimes like a thing or a person or I don't know, a video game. Who knows? But for me this week, it is podcast networks, David.
There you go.
Shockingly.
Beautiful.
Yes.
What a thing.
So I knew that these were a thing for a while. I feel like Maximum Fun is kind of the one that I was most acquainted with, where my brother and the Adventure Zone and all that sort of shit is on. And so like I knew that this was a thing, but I had never really considered that for us until like, you know, not fairly recently, but within the last like 6 months or so. And it's like such a cool idea, especially because I think that like we're not like big time podcasting. And so it's cool to be able to kind of like kick into a similarly minded indie space, which is it's cool, man. I like that.
Absolutely.
Also like engaging with thought kind of directly like that too. Of like, here's something that these people said, or here's something that this podcast brought up, which is, it's cool, man. I like that. It's cool. Video games.
We're really in it now.
Do you have something fueling your sense of podtimism, David?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's dragons.
It's dragons, dude. It's totally dragons.
It's totally dragons this week. And just there's been a lot of good dragons in game.
Yeah, man.
Skyrim, dragons are awesome. I'm sure there's going to be a dragon or two in Baldur's Gate. I'm expecting at least.
I've seen them already.
Divinity, of course, always has dragons.
Great dragons, yeah.
Good dragons. They're always just such a wild card. Is this going to be a smart, sneaky, a hoardy dragon? Is this going to be a big, just fire-breathing dragon? Is this going to be some sort of elemental dragon of a different type? Who knows? The dragon variety is always such a surprise.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're just fun. They're cool creatures.
They're cool creatures. I love dragons.
I love dragons.
Drabins. Do you have a favorite dragon, David? This feels like such third grade show and tell right now, but do you have a favorite dragon?
In all of everything?
I would say in video games specifically.
In video games specifically. Parthenax has to be up there.
Dude, it's Parthenax. That's the only answer for me. It's Parthenax.
Parthenax is pretty damn good.
Oh my God.
Like dragons who are your homie. Like Parthenax just stands out because he's like the
he's
good
such a
dragon.
character. Yeah, he's like
he's a character.
Yeah.
There was a dragon in Divinity, I think 2, who if you help him, he's like a human and then he turns into a dragon and then he'll help you if you're stuck somewhere. He was also a good dragon, but I do not remember his name.
I also encountered that dragon. I'm with you there.
It's a good one.
I'm on Wikipedia. List of dragons in video games. Lots of good dragons in Elden Ring.
I wouldn't say any of them were like my friend dragons.
No.
I had to murder all of those dragons, and they were some real bastards.
Yeah. A Hooktail in 1,000-Year Door. Love that.
That's a good one.
Fucking Seath the Scaleless from Dark Souls, David.
Ooh,
that's a good dragon.
Seath.
That's a cool dragon.
Seath's a fucking weirdo.
I know. Yeah, that's
so sketchy. Wasn't there a dragon from Mario Odyssey? Was there a dragon in that one?
Yeah, there's like the Dark Souls level in Mario Odyssey where you have to go like fight the big ass dragon.
That was a cool dragon.
I enjoyed that one. Okay, yeah, we're just listing dragons. We should move on to our main thing.
But of all dragons in all of entertainment or art, Balerion, the Black Dread.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm with you there.
It's got to be cool dragon. Anyways,
let's move on to our main thing, Dave.
Let's do it.
Cool. Welcome to Good Games. It's the segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and find things to love about them. I feel like this one's been on our list of kind of okay games to do for a while.
Yes.
It's in that sweet spot of like a early console release date where like everybody is just scrambling to get a video game out the door.
We just got to get something out there.
Just do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I really played this game when I was younger.
I did not know it even existed.
This is surprising because I have a really specific memory of playing it with friends at my house. And like, I feel like you were there. But
I could have been, but this is a rare instance where I do not recall.
Yeah, that's fair. We were of course talking about The Bouncer, the PlayStation 2 release. Bit of a weird one. This one, I just feel like it is so representative of this segment of finding okay games.
Absolutely.
To find good stuff about, because like let's not bury the lead. Like There's a lot of things that are weird about this video game.
Yes.
But there's like a couple of fucking cool things in there.
There sure are. Agreed.
So, yeah, why don't we get into it a little bit? Can I hit you with some hot statistics about this video game, David?
Please.
Cool. And here's a stinger that we play whenever we do this part of the show.
Burn me up. Yeah, right. Here's the stinger.
Hot stats. Hot stats.
Okay, so The Bouncer was released March 6th in 2001 in North America. To me, this felt like a launch title because I think like the PlayStation 2 came out in 2000, and I feel like the number of consoles that were available was so low at the time that I think it probably took me until around this time to find one.
Sure.
Like my dad was really invested too, which tells you something about it. Cause like,
and finding a PS2?
Yes. He was like, dude, we need to get one. He was like, I think I've mentioned this before, but he was very much like interested in like the power of the hardware of the PlayStation 2. I saw this video. It was kind of amazing it's like archival footage of people at the like midnight PlayStation 2 launch. And the people are just like asking like, hey, why are you here? What are you excited about the PlayStation? It's incredible as like just a time capsule, but like there was a lot of people there who were just like, yeah, the stats on the hardware really got me excited, which is like in hindsight, such a strange way to approach the enjoyment of video games. But like also at the same time, things were moving so quickly that like
tech enthusiasts.
Yeah. Like the Super Nintendo hadn't come out that long ago. So like how wild is it that the PS2 of all things is out now? It's like, I forget sometimes like how impressive that was at the time.
What's Rob going to do with all that power?
I think Rob just wanted to like look at it and enjoy and sort of like see what the future was, you know?
We shot down that alien in Roswell and now we're here.
So this game was made by this company called Dream Factory, which I think that they were published by Square Enix. Somehow they were like involved there, but they also had made Tobal No. 1, which is a bit of a foreshadow, I think.
Ooh.
Airg's God Bless the Ring, which is a wild video game. It seems to be like a fighting game, but the clip I looked up about... The clip I looked up about this game showed Cloud Strife fighting a wrestler in a wrestling ring. So I was sort of...
That is fascinating.
Yeah, I was sort of... that was kind of a jump scare. I wasn't expecting Cloud to show up in this game, but... and of course the game Crimson Tears, which I think was a PlayStation 2 game. I don't know. But a very specific part of the Square Enix, or I think at the time just Square.
Squaresoft?
Yeah, so they essentially just like had a publishing deal, I guess, with Square at the time. So you see a lot of people who would go on to work on other things on this game, who would go on to work on other big Square products, right? There's a lot of people here who, like, I think the easiest one to point to is Tetsuya Nomura, the character designer, which, damn, you can see in this game. You
absolutely can. It's like early concept.
Yes, yeah, no, totally. So there's that. There's a bunch of people who would go on to work on like Final Fantasy games, specifically Kingdom Hearts, which we'll get into in a bit. There's definitely something there. But yeah, so there's a lot of like pedigree here for Square folks. Okay, so normally, and this part of the segment, I take a review from an outlet that is not written in English, run it through Google Translate a bunch of times, one language into the other, and then read that review. We typically have reviews from this outlet called Joe Video, which is also true today. I have a review from Joe Video. David, I swear that there is a ghost in the machine in this review.
Oh, uh-oh.
It's a wild one. So let me read to you what this mangled review says of The Bouncer. The graphics are a dream, and the animation is good. It's hard to see with your eyes. Along the way, you'll find a lot of difficulties lighting effects and graphics for triumph, but everyone's fine. The effects are not very good when the music is repetitive, but our English pronunciation is getting better and better. After all, the audio-visual masterpiece, Bouncer, is still a classic and only takes a few hours to play. If the title isn't good, it's confusing, and they must be fans of a game with a beautiful comic book graphic. But the move down the list was quickly halted. This will be handled by the supplier. I think he wants to sleep. The main thing is to start, not to garnish the sauce. And then they gave that a 12 out of 10.
What happened in that one?
I feel like...
It started talking to you.
Yes. Yeah. Like there were synapses firing somewhere that created that thought. Like we were in the middle of like electronic thought for a second.
Yeah. It stopped translating and it started like telling you about the translation.
Yes. Our English pronunciation is getting better. And then also the I think he wants to sleep was haunting.
Terrifying.
so scary.
My God.
Anyway, could you tell me what the Bouncer is, David?
So the Bouncer is a third-person brawler, essentially. Brawler RPG. Mm-hmm. So you go, you take the role of, one of three characters. Yeah. Scion is the main character, but then there's also Volt and Cow. Is that his name?
Ko? I think Ko is how you probably say it.
Okay. Yeah. Ko. And each one, there's like, Scion is kind of the jack of all trades. Volt
he's the Sora.
He's the Sora. He looks so much like Sora. It's like the coloration of his jacket is pretty much the same as Sora with the big chain and everything.
He's like, his vibe is also so extremely Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
Absolutely. Just kind of confused, doesn't know what's going on, but has a lot of emotions that he hasn't unpacked.
Yes.
Then there's Volt, who's like the big burly guy, and he's a more of a bruiser type of character.
Yes.
And then Ko, who's more agile, I would say. So you can take control of any one of them before any of the battles start, and it's like a little open area, like a very small arena, I should say, that you fight these enemies in with your three bouncer buddies, and you're all just bouncers who go on to essentially save the world. Crazy story. It's very Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
And then it's just like street people who then save the world. But yeah, and you between levels, you get a rating, and that allows you to upgrade your character if you so desire to get, basic power-ups or like new moves as well, which are pretty sweet.
I think you got it. It's like all in all kind of mechanically a pretty straightforward game.
Yeah. You're in an area and you can beat people up. There's strong moves, there's low sweeping moves, there's some grappling, there's some blocking.
I feel like the only other thing to add is there's like an extreme amount of cutscene between each fight.
There's a lot of cutscenes.
There's a lot of stuff going on in there. And like, I think it's important to keep in mind that like, I feel like this game was so intended to be a flex of like, look at how good we can make this look.
Absolutely.
And like, to be fair, looks pretty good. Like
it still does look pretty good.
It's not knocking my socks off, right? Like pretty much everything in Baldur's Gate 3 looks better than this, but like, it's fine, right? Like when we play like a really rough looking PlayStation 1 game, it's like, yeah, this is definitely for the PlayStation 1, but like, this is fine.
I was impressed by the animations, like the body animations I thought were pretty well done. Facial animations, maybe not so much, but the animation of the body, very good.
They got pretty good animation. They were really leaning on the ragdoll physics at the time. Whenever you punch someone, they just fully ragdoll wherever they are.
Yeah. Their legs are splayed like over their head, crumpled in a corner.
They turn into like the weight of like a piece of paper and then sort of fly away.
Pretty much.
But yeah, no, I think that's it. What did you think about this game, David? Because like I have a history of this one. I kind of want your unbiased, your simple and clean, unbiased opinion.
Simple and clean. The most striking thing was, wow, so many cutscenes. It felt like one long cutscene, and with bits of this fighting interposed between scenes, because there would be quite a few times where you'd be waiting for a long time before you're fighting again, and the fights aren't long. Typically
they're really not.
They're pretty short, because you're not traversing levels. It is a area, you fight the enemies in that area, and then it ends, you get a score, you get your points for like however well you did, and then you can upgrade your character from there, and then it goes into another cutscene, and then rinse and repeat. So it's very much a very story driven game, and the combat is decent. It feels weighty, I guess, is the best thing I could say about it. I wouldn't say that I feel very like agile or strong when I'm doing it, and I don't feel very coordinated, I would say, either. But it does feel good when you get a big hit in. That feels nice. That did feel nice. So yeah, it was a very interesting style of game. I haven't played quite anything like this before, but I feel like it's very much in the vein of, Japanese brawlers, like what is it, God Hand kind of comes to mind. That was a pretty big one back in the day. But in that vein, or a Yakuza, right? But just not open world, as far as the combat goes.
It's true. I think like any of those like kind of older beat 'em up styles, like I'm reminded of Final Fight a lot as well too.
Sure.
Or Streets of Rage. Fighting Force for the PlayStation 1. I was a big fan of Fighting Force.
Nice.
I bought that game. Another dad shout out right now. My dad was really convinced, or not convinced, but he was really adamant about calling that game Fighting Horse. And to To be honest, good joke, you know?
Yeah.
I liked that.
Not a bad one, Rob.
Yeah, not a bad joke at all. Yeah, I am with you that it was like I said, it felt like a flex of like, look at how good we can make video games look. And did you beat this game? It's very beatable.
I got maybe like halfway through and then I died.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. And then it was over.
Lights out. Yeah.
It was over for me. A very rude awakening to remembering how saves used to function.
I didn't consciously know that that's what was going to happen, but like every time it offered me a chance to save, I saved because my brain was just trained to know that like in this game, if you die, you don't get to continue. You just have to say or reload wherever the last time your save was.
Do it again.
Which is brutal. Like I think of all the things that have aged poorly, like I think that part of it is kind of the top of the list.
Absolutely.
The saving system, and like they offer you saves constantly. It's like every minute or two. If you skip the cutscenes, you're probably being offered a save every minute.
That's fair.
And if it was like the kind of save that happens in like Celeste or something where it's like just an immediate yes save, great, that would be fine. But it's the whole rigmarole of the PlayStation 2 of like checking memory card access. Do you want to override this save? Okay. Logging memory card. Like
there's a lot of buttons to press to be like, yes, I'm saving the game here. Please.
Yeah. And so like, I think that part of it doesn't age super well, but if you can get around that, I think that there is cool stuff going on here. I think you're right to compare it to the Fast and the Furious, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Cause like I would be hard pressed to tell you what was happening at any given moment in this game.
Yeah.
But like I felt it. I felt what was happening, you know?
I was playing this game. I thought back to where I started in the beginning of this game. And I'm like, how the hell am I now in like this super advanced capitalist company compound?
Yeah.
Like dealing with a space laser, essentially, when I'm a bouncer from a bar.
I know.
How did I get here?
I guess like it's worth pointing out that like the conceit of the story is that like you're one of these three bouncer dudes and they're like Dominique shows up, who's like a friend of Sion. Oh my God, Fast and the Furious. Jesus.
It's because it's all connected, baby.
Yeah. We're one big family.
One big family. Family is a central theme of this game, too.
It is, yeah. So, essentially the conceit of the story is that Dominique, she gets like kidnapped by these people who are working for the Mikado group. And for some reason, Volt knows this immediately. He's like, oh, those were definitely Mikado dudes. I think he like worked for them at some point.
I think he was like a former Mikado guy.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, well, we have to go catch up with her. And so I think they're just kind of like tailing her for most of the beginning of the game. There's also this plot about them trying to launch like a solar satellite for the Mikado group. So that's kind of going on in the background too.
It's a satellite that absorbs sun rays and then shoots it at the Earth in the form of microwaves. To supply energy to these plants, these energy plants on the surface.
It's a lot. There's a lot going on there.
And that concept is introduced like in the very beginning cutscene.
Yes, it's like within the first minute, which is kind of amazing.
I thought this game was about bouncers.
I like it. I feel like that also feels just like very Square of the era. Like Mikado looks so much like Shinra from Final Fantasy VII that like I kind of wonder if part of this game was them being like, hey, we've got like a lot of good ideas from the future and the past. Like, what if we just made something kind of different, but used some of that stuff, right? I think the corporation and sort of the aesthetic design of the city is very Final Fantasy VII. The city called Edge is amazing. Like that's straight out of Final Fantasy. Fate is the name of the bar that you bounce at. On a street called Dog Street. Like, come on, dude. That's so good.
Dog Street.
So like,
love it.
All of that feels very Final Fantasy VII. I think it would eventually go on to be very Kingdom Hearts, right? Like,
absolutely. Oh yeah, big time.
Like the 3-party sort of adventuring troupe. Sion looks so much like Sora, which I guess would make Volt goofy.
And Ko is Donald? I guess I can see that. Ko is kind of sassy like Donald is.
He's got a little Donald to him.
And Volt's just kind of like the big lug.
Yeah, definitely a different vibe, but like big is their character.
Yes, Tallman.
And so you get a lot of that. Plus like the main story being this like trying to save the main character's maybe love interest. I think that like Kingdom Hearts does that a lot better for my money of like, I think that they nail that vibe a lot better of this like wistless sort of wanting that is present throughout all of Kingdom Hearts of like, not only are you trying to save Kairi, but there's also this like teenage hole in your heart that's also present of just like, I just want to like be around this girl and hang out with my friends on the beach.
So you're saying he's heartless, huh?
He kind of is a heartless David. There's a hole in his heart. You should finish Kingdom Hearts. We should actually do that that series that we were talking about.
I've also been playing that.
Okay, great. Yeah, perfect. And so like I think that the ideas being introduced here are familiar in a way, but also like I think that Square was also trying to figure out like, do we make brawler games? Because they had like those other games that I listed are also kind of brawler types. And so I think that they were trying to see like, is this something we could also do? But I wonder if the ambition that a lot of Square games at the time had, and a lot of the people that were on this team had, I don't know if it lends itself totally to this kind of game. I think Final Fantasy games work, and I think Kingdom Hearts games work too, as much as that one is also kind of a brawler. I think those games work really well because they give you so much time to experience the people and the world and just sort of like soak in that. Whereas like this game feels much more like it is like trying to be a movie, which is fine. It's cool. But I think like the amount of work and intent that has gone into designing all these things, you kind of miss some of it if you even blink a lot of the time.
It's true. There's a lot of detail in there, actually.
There is. Yeah. I think the thing that I am appreciating most about this game is like, I get the vibe of this place. I think they establish a tone so well in this game. And it feels just so core Square stuff.
Yeah. Some things that set the tone for me in the beginning. The people dropping in through the building through with their heads in like some weird head, like harpoon weird thing.
Amazing. Yeah.
That was wild. Made no sense, but I was into it.
So good. Yeah.
The very limber enemies that you fight who are just squatting to the ground and just like doing Squidward arms the whole time.
Very Voldo-like dudes.
Yeah. A lot of Voldos in this game.
Yes.
And of course, just the very eccentric, I will say, voice acting in this game.
My God.
was fascinating and definitely lends to the vibe.
Yeah, it's like, I gotta say, it could be worse. I've seen definitely like less good voice acting, but there's still some weird stuff going on in there that I'm like, yeah, dude, I love this.
I love the part where the main bad guy, Durangon?
Oh my God, yeah, I have no idea how to say his name.
He says, as chief executive officer, I command you. That part was so good.
Yes, yeah.
And then just people stating the obvious. Scion sees his master die and says, I'm avenging my master.
Yes, just explaining what is about to happen as a bullet point.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh man, the delivery is something else as well.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing.
It's an experience.
The guy who played Ko is also Spike from Cowboy Bebop, who's in like everything. Yeah, Steve Blum is the dude who did that. That dude's in fucking everything. He's in so much shit, especially of this era. My man was working in this era of like in anime and video games. He's in fucking everything.
Hey, good for him. He's the Nolan North of his time.
I'm like, again, his like behindthevoiceactors.com page is gigantic. There's so much shit in there. So yeah, kind of wild cast. You're right though, that like the dialogue sometimes was just like, what is happening in this video game right now?
Yeah.
In a good way. I think that like that adds
I enjoyed
to
it. Yeah, I agree. It just felt like a silly movie at some points.
Yes. Yeah. I have this very specific memory of playing this game. And like, I think it was some kind of hot day in Sacramento. We were at my dad's house and there was like people over. We of course ordered a Papa John's pizza. The pizza man showed up and was like,
you guys playing PS2?
And was like very excited.
Heard it's real powerful.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't remember what he said. Cause like, I don't think GTA was out quite at the time, but like, I don't remember what Dude Bro games were at the time. And like, listen, this is a Dude Bro game of a different variety. it is about dude bros in the way that like Final Fantasy 15 is also about dude bros. But like, I think one of us said like, it's the bouncer. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And like just gave us the pizza and left, like clearly uninterested in whatever weird shit we were playing.
He just wanted to play SOCOM.
Was that even out at the time?
I don't even know. I don't even know.
Like that stereotype of dude bro games, I feel like hadn't even really happened in.
I feel like dude bros weren't like maybe playing games as much back then.
Not as much. Yeah.
It was still more of a niche when PS2 was out. I guess PS2 when it first came out was still more of a niche, but it was the one that really sent it over the edge of being more mainstream.
You were getting dude bros by that point. But like, I feel like the Call of Duty guy wasn't invented.
It wasn't really a thing
until
yet.
Later. And like, listen, I also played Call of Duty, so like no shade. But
Chase hates Call of Duty. Oh, he was just looking for Armored Core 2.
Was he though? Is that the game? That one feels pretty niche too.
Or probably Madden. That's probably what he was looking for.
Yeah, that feels more appropriate. I have a lot of love for this game. It is so weird. The story is bananas and nigh incomprehensible sometimes, but like you're just, you're vibing. You're going and saving people. Characters are getting introduced and killed so quickly.
Yes.
It's a wild ride, but I sort of love it. Like I said, it feels kind of like a Kingdom Hearts level. Like Sora, Goofy, and Donald got transported into this world, and this is the one that they're experiencing.
I absolutely see that. That makes a lot of sense.
It's the early 2000s JRPG world that they got transported to.
Great.
Not
beautiful.
Even JRPG, just brawler.
Yeah, I mean, I play that game.
Yeah.
Donald, Goofy, and Sora just going into different video games now.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Hanging out with Kratos.
If that's what Kingdom Hearts 4 was, dude, I would listen, it's already on site. I'm going to play Kingdom Hearts 4, but like...
Have you played number 3 yet?
No, I'm waiting. I'm
waiting in the wang.
I was worried, and there was a very real possibility of this happening, that I would play the entire Kingdom Hearts franchise before we did an episode about the first Kingdom Hearts.
You are voracious sometimes,
I was almost there.
I think you're at 3 now, aren't you?
I'm about halfway through Dream Drop Distance. So like I'm getting there. I think
with Guy Fieri?
Triple D with Guy Fieri as Sora. And I was about halfway through that one. I think there's like one like prequel thing before Kingdom Hearts 3 though. It's like just an Aqua story. Kingdom Hearts, man. So I really like this game. I think it's so stupid and amazing.
I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
It was absurd.
Yes.
In the best way possible.
It's condensed. Like it is such dense absurdity.
Yeah, and I really enjoy watching it. I really enjoy playing it through the lens of, okay, this guy goes on to make Kingdom Hearts.
Yes. Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense. Like especially like the song that they play during the credits. Did you hear this song?
No, I don't think. Oh, do you mean the beginning of the game?
No, the end of the game.
All right, hold on.
It's just like this slow, sexy R&B song. It was and it just made me think like, okay, this is a game about love. This was a game about young love was really what it was.
It's so strange that like so many games were doing that at the time, but not always through their plot,
Yeah.
Like this game is about fighting dudes. That's like the main thing that is happening in there.
Fighting dudes to get the girl back.
Yes. I wish there were more games that were a little bit more intent on like interesting love stories. Cause I feel like they're like the early 2000s were going so hard on that, but like it was a very non-realistic depiction of what love is, right? Like it's very like couched in video game tradition of Mario saving Peach and like old kind of like fairy tale shit. And like I feel like you don't really get that very much outside of like dating sims, or like Baldur's Gate has a lot of it, but I feel like that's kind of baked into a lot of those RPGs of like romance side plots. But like, where's all the good love stories, Yeah,
where's my rom-com video games?
Yeah.
Where's the Notebook of video games?
Where is The Notebook? The Notebook video game tie-in seems pretty fucked up. I don't know.
Davinity presents The Notebook.
Davinity original Grin presents
I'm new. I'm the new American McGee.
Oh my God. Sid Meier, who, dude? Davinity.
Davinity, original Grin presents The Notebook, the game.
The game, the movie. Okay. Do you have anything else to say about the bouncer?
I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. It's an experience.
Yeah, I enjoyed it despite all of its weird shit going on. There's a lot
of stuff going on.
Weird stuff. Combat's fine, but it's very fun.
You just have to let it happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good game. Hey, normally this is the part of the episode where we tell you where to find us on the internet. I think that will probably still be at podtimism.com. But I sort of suspect that we may need to direct people to theworstgarbage.online for Discord links and shit. Mm-hmm. So maybe go there too. We'll figure out exactly what this part of the episode needs to be now, but still. So you can also, I will say, suggest a game at podtimism.com. We take user suggestions for that last segment. So we have a bunch of them. So fear not, there's plenty to play through, but yeah, we're always taking suggestions and open to whatever okay games that you liked in the past or that you didn't like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let us tackle a game that you are having trouble being podtimistic about.
We'll lend you our powers. Somebody suggested today Kirby and the Crystal Shards. Not the Crystal Shards.
I haven't heard of that one.
Neither have I.
I haven't heard of that one.
I don't know if that's a big one, but
is it a suggestion to like make a sequel to Kirby and the Crystal Shards? Maybe that's how we have to interpret it.
I've never experienced a usage suggestion that was interpretable like this.
See, we've seen Kirby inhale and swallow lots of things, but what happens afterwards?
We're on Twitter, I guess. We're not really posting there, so I think like our main form of social interaction right now is probably going to be through Discord. So if you want to hang out, you can go there.
Do we still call it Twitter or is it X now?
I'm going to keep calling it Twitter. Elon can kick rocks, man. I ain't calling it X. It's so stupid.
Fair enough.
But there's only X in my heart.
He gonna give it to you.
And he is going to give it to you. Yes, correct.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Scout, for your work on our podcast art. ko-fi.com/humblegoat is where you can find her stuff. She's a great artist. I love her work. And there's a bunch of other podcasts on the network that also have leveraged Scout's art. Her new art for Into the Aether's new season is amazing. So you can go check that out too. I guess here's where we say thank you to theworstgarbage.online for having us on the network. I'm very excited about this.
Thank you.
It's very cool.
It's fun. Already, it's fun.
It's fun. Also, if you want to help out the show, there's a couple things you can do. Review it on a podcatcher of choice or tell a friend. That is the best way to make it grow because I bet you've got cool friends that might like a podcast. Mm-hmm. So that's an option available to you.
I feel it.
Finally, thank you, listener, for listening to this podcast. If you're new here, thanks for giving us a shot and taking a chance with your ear minutes because those are valuable and hard to come by. So yeah, we both love making the show. I'm excited to see kind of like where this goes in the next like year or so. So yeah, I'm filled with a lot of like joy and gratitude for the space and the option to talk about video games weekly. It's very cool. I like them and I like you and I like our listeners.
Oh, wow. You like me?
David, we've been friends for like 25 years.
We don't say it often. We just don't say it.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
That's good to hear. I like you too, Chase.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for listening. David just got lost for a second.
Simple and Clean started playing in my head.
Yeah, that's right. Do you have any gaming wisdom to leave us with this week, David?
I do.
Okay.
There's a lot of similarities between taking down a large multinational corporation and making a podcast.
Pray tell.
Both are better tackled as part of a team.
Yes. Yeah.
So team up. It's good for you.
Team up.
It helps.
Do a high five.
Do a high five and then kick the ever-loving hell out of some guy's face.
Yeah.
Maybe. I did like the team up moves. I will say that.
That was pretty sick. Yeah.
They were great.
It does kind of feel like we're about to like kick Shinra's teeth in with podcast network stuff, you know?
What would be the worst garbage's combo move?
Oh my God. I feel like there's just a non-violence to TWG. That it's like the most compelling argument spell, you know?
Or just do a big group hug.
Ooh, that's powerful. That's powerful.
I have no enemies. Only friends.
That's good. Can you imagine if that's what it was in Kingdom Hearts? Like the Trinity move was them just hugging. That would have been really appropriate, to be honest.
It honestly would have been. Back in the day, probably would have gotten flamed for being too Disney, but would have been thematically appropriate.
This is your chance, Kingdom Hearts 4. The Trinity move should be a hug.
You can right your past wrongs.
See you next week, gamers.
See ya.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.